Hello everyone. Today we are going to be talking about XRP as promised. But first we got to talk about Bitcoin and what's going on. Kind of coming in with the opposite market action as we were on Thursday when I talked to you guys last. We had just taken a little bit of a dip. Spent the weekend consolidating around the 9.5 mark, and we're back up testing to 10.4. Looking like we're trying to get back on above this trend line. But we are getting stopped out at about 10.4. We're testing just above, but we haven't been able to hold it yet, but we also haven't been fully rejected off of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the coming hours we're going to see some kind of, at the very least, not necessarily a major move, but like a more clear rejection or push through. But that being said, there's, well, always a few different scenarios. So first thing I want to say is you might notice that I've changed. For a while I've been using these blue lines to define a descending channel, but I changed it to this wedge. It's just obviously a wedge forming. I thought maybe we're going to dip down lower and make more of a channel, but we've tested on 9.5 like 4 times now and it's held. Pretty good support. So it's clearly a wedge. So bull scenario, we need to test to the top of this, which means breaking through 10.4, pushing through pretty much to and above 11. The channel or the line that it defines it is a little bit lower than that, but a solid break above 11 would make it, and getting support there would make it more clear we had broken above this wedge. If that happens kind of fast, great. But if it isn't able to like get above and like get out, there's a good chance it'll get kicked back down. Just saying. That being said, it's very plausible we could see some sideways action here between about 10.4 and maybe down to 9.5. We could kind of bounce back and forth here. It could go all the way into October. I don't think it'll take that long. We could see a few more tests to the top and bottom here, but sooner or later it's going to have to kick us out, and I think when it does, it's going to be a significant move. If we have a bear scenario, that's pretty similar to what I've been saying in other videos. We'd obviously get rejected off here, test back down. Should we break 9.5, then we're looking at 8.8. We're looking at 8,000 below that. So watch for that. That's basically, again, the 3 scenarios. Sooner or later, this wedge is going to have to break, probably in the next couple of weeks at the longest. And when it does, it could signal pretty much whether we're going into bull or bear territory. So that'll do it for Bitcoin for now. Now let's move on to Ripple, or XRP. I often use Ripple and XRP interchangeably. I know XRP is the currency, Ripple's the company, but if you hear me make a mistake in the video, you can still feel free to comment on it, but I am aware. So, without further ado, let's check it out. Here we're looking at XRP against Bitcoin, and basically I'm going to start off with it against Bitcoin because some of the final points I want to make are more about XRP against the dollar. But it's going to reiterate a little bit of what I was saying with Ethereum. We are currently testing down to about 25,000, a little above 25,000 Satoshis here. We're hitting some support here, like with Ethereum, that's taking us to basically the last support above the all-time lows against Bitcoin, which in this case is a little over 10,000, about 12,000 Satoshis. Like I said with Ethereum, I don't think this is a huge problem. It's really just another way of saying that Bitcoin dominance is still doing really well. We're currently at about 70.1 for Bitcoin dominance. So while a lot of the altcoin holders are waiting for some kind of run, I think we're still going to have to keep waiting. Keep in mind, last time we touched on those all-time lows was right before XRP took off to its all-time highs. Now, I'm in no way predicting that if we see a drop to around 12,000 Satoshis, we're about to moon or anything. But just note that, again, this is not a bad time to accumulate, and if you believe in the project, this isn't a big deal. We're just seeing this cycle play out where right now Bitcoin's dominating the market. So let's switch over to XRP against the dollar and talk a little bit more about that, because there's something I want to touch on there. All right, well, here's XRP against the dollar over the entire last market cycle, basically. And I just wanted to point out how, first of all, and we've talked about this recently, but I'm going to elaborate a little bit more. First of all, notice how before the previous market cycle, Ripple pretty much, at least for a while, enjoyed about 26 cents as its ceiling. And then we took off, came back down, the whole story we know. Now 26 cents is basically the floor and has been for a while. We're currently just over that. So what I want to talk about with this, I've kind of explained how this can be an okay thing before. Again, we're just seeing, we're not seeing the altcoins move yet. Okay, but there is, as I'm sure many of you know, kind of the elephant in the room of some controversy going around in the XRP community concerning, the fact that Ripple basically dumps XRP frequently, and often when the price starts to rise, they dump enough that it drops back down, and they also often sell XRP to their partners directly, which doesn't move the market the way they would if they did it through an exchange. So There's three things it's currently causing some shaking around in the community. There's talk of a hard fork, which I think would be fascinating to see if there was a community version of XRP and a corporate version of XRP, but we'll see if that happens. Anyway, 3 points I want to make concerning this right now. Two are more positive and optimistic about the whole situation, and one's a little bit more cynical. Take it for what you will. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I like all crypto. But, one, so Ripple right now is trying to build a network, a global network, that will allow, its partners, major banks and other major businesses, to use its currency for global cross-border payments. That's great, but they're building the infrastructure right now. They are selling to partners directly. They are selling to fund their own work. So that's not unexpected. That's them growing a business, growing a global network. It's not surprising they're selling off and that they're doing it so they can lay the infrastructure. Basically, the idea here is be patient, and once it's ready, it will moon in some form or another. They will have all those partners, all those customers, and it will go up in value. But until then, they're probably okay with keeping it at a reasonably low level as they build this whole thing. So, be patient, be optimistic. That leads to my next point, really, which is that for this type of a currency, having a fairly stable price, I've said this before, isn't really a bad thing. It's still a little volatile, so is the whole crypto market, but I'm sure that whether or not it's a feature or not, I'm sure keeping it a reasonably stable price is more confidence building to a lot of the partners than it rocketing up and rocketing down like more of crypto has been. That probably wouldn't build as much confidence, and they're trying to build that kind of confidence right now. It wouldn't surprise me if someday, even if it does go up a lot, someday we see another level where it gets a lot more comfortable for a long time. So again, feature, glitch, I'm leaning towards feature. So that's my two optimistic things for everybody out there holding and waiting for the good days to come. I'd say be patient. It looks like they're still working on it, and I don't see a real problem with that. The third point I'll make, which is more cynical, is simply that if you're holding in Ripple and you're waiting for it to make you rich, consider that it's a corporate currency controlled by a corporation and whose primary customers are meant to be banks. And when has a corporation or a world bank ever made anyone rich except themselves? Just something to think about. A little cynical, but maybe diversify if you haven't already. I think a lot of us are diversified. I'm sure a lot of you, I'm preaching to the choir here, but diversify. Hedge your bets, if you're so inclined. Okay, that ought to do it for me yet again. As I'm always saying, this is not investment advice, just my personal opinion. Go do your own research, make your own decisions. Come back Thursday when I'll be taking a pretty good look at the current global financial system and how it's playing into the Bitcoin markets. My colleague Will likes to do these stories as they come down the line, but I'll be synthesizing several different stories and looking at how it's affecting crypto as a whole. So it should be an interesting discussion and a slightly longer video. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe. Good luck with those trades.